This live presentation was produced in Ashland, Oregon by the Rogue Valley Metaphysical Library and Event Center. RVML relies on the support of our volunteers, members, and donors to organize and present these programs. For more information about this presentation, or to borrow, download, or purchase other recordings from our catalog, please visit our website at rvml.org.
Thank you very, very much. Thank you very much for coming. It's really lovely that you're here. It's a beautiful night. Fall is on its way, and it's nice to be warm and cozy inside. So I'd like to thank you very much for being here. I'd like to thank Bridget Tyler and Jordan Pease for allowing this to happen and for inviting me to come here, and Ethan for the sound, and Lillian for the door. And I'd also like to thank Hearn for the introduction. So, Rogue Valley Metaphysical Library's mission statement, their vision, is very appropriate to, I'm sure, every lecture that's happened here. That statement is, our ability to discern truth is enhanced by exposure to a broader perspective on the human experience. By integrating new truths into our awareness, the expansion of knowledge in the collective mind advances the evolution of human consciousness. So by learning new things that we were not exposed to before, allows us to broaden our minds, which allows the entire world to evolve and to grow and to change. And I just think it's wonderful that you've all taken the time out of your evening to come here to maybe learn something new or to relearn some Cayce information. The amount of people I've talked to that were like, oh, I read Cayce in the 70s. And then it was a long period of not. So I'm hoping that maybe tonight can reinvigorate that interest in Edgar Cayce. And for those that are kind of learning this for the first time, it's absolutely fascinating what Edgar Cayce, the phenomenon it was, and the ordinariness of it all. So I look forward to sharing that with you. So again, thank you for coming, and thank you for supporting this place, because the knowledge contained here is really great. And I know it's a nonprofit, so I know it's kept alive by people coming to these types of things. So today, what we're going to talk about is, first I'm going to talk about Edgar Cayce and kind of do a brief little, this is his story. And then I'm going to talk about the ARE, which is the foundation that has cropped up around Edgar Cayce and really supports his material. And then I'm going to begin to talk about dreams and what Edgar Cayce had to specifically say about dreams, talking about, are they really that important? Where are dreams coming from? And specific Edgar Cayce quotes on, what he has to say about it. And then we'll take a break. When we come back from the break, we'll talk about getting into how do we work with our dreams and how do we use that knowledge that Edgar Cayce gave us to understand what's happening when we're asleep. And there'll be a question and answer period at the end. If there are questions throughout, hopefully I'll have a little bit of time before the first break that I can answer some questions. I'll try and stop a few minutes early there. And then there'll be a longer question and answer period at the end of the lecture. So I discovered Edgar Cayce in 2001. And that was when I started going to the massage school. And it may seem like 2001's 5 years away, it's only a 5-year period, but I was immersed. First massage school, and then I became an employee of the massage school. The lecture Dream that I'm going to give tonight, I've been giving for 2 years, twice a month, to people as a survey lecture at the ARE. So I've been immersed in the culture for 5 years, and I've really just been digging and digging and digging. And to help me with all that digging, my wife also went to the massage school, and so she and I have, not only gotten to work on each other, but really taken the Cayce remedies and the Cayce material and gotten to practice it on each other. And be like, here, try this. Cayce says it works, and by golly, it does. So we've gotten a good chance to really experiment a lot with what his remedies were and the body work he prescribed, and also bounce the philosophies off. So like I said, I've been immersed in the Cayce material for these past 5 years. I first went to Virginia Beach in 1997. I graduated from college in Ohio, with a major in sociology, and traveled across the country to here, lived here for a little bit. This is where I ran out of gas in my bus. Lived here for a little bit, and then moved my mom from Pennsylvania to Virginia Beach, 13 blocks away from the ARE Visitor Center. And I saw it for the first time. I was like, oh, that's cool, and then it was 4 years later, after visiting a few times, that I started going to the massage school. And so I've bounced back and forth since 1997 between Virginia Beach, Virginia, and Ashland, Oregon. And I've just returned to Ashland 2 months ago, after spending the last 3.5 years solid living 13 blocks from the ARE and working there full time and going to massage school. So that was my introduction to Edgar Cayce, and it really it blew my hair back with every bit of information I read. The further and further along I went and dove a little bit deeper into his material, more and more awareness and awakening happened, and it's been phenomenal. Now, I'm sure there were only a few hands, or I guess this was not the question, but is there anybody in here that has never heard of Edgar Cayce? Okay. So, most of you have heard about Edgar Cayce, so that's good news. Excuse me. The winter cold is on its way. So the familiarity with Edgar Cayce in this room is, there's a good familiarity with it. So what I'd like to do is just kind of give you a reintroduction to the story of Edgar Cayce, just so it's a beautiful story and it's a simple story. He was born in 1877 in Kentucky. And so I would give this lecture to high school students on occasion and say, have you ever seen Little House on the Prairie? And they'd kind of look at me a little blank. But y'all in here have seen Little House on the Prairie, and that's really the time frame that Edgar Cayce was born in. No cars, no TVs, just down-home country type of people in Kentucky. And Edgar Cayce was a little odd. He was able to go to his mom and say, Mom, I was talking to Grandpa today, and he said you used to do this when you were a kid. And his mom, when he was 4 years old, would look at him and be like, well, Grandpa's been dead for a number of years. And so, she just chalked it up to an active imagination. And he would do this with a lot of people in the town. He would be like, hey, I was talking to so-and-so, and that so-and-so is a dead person, and this is what they said about you when you were younger. And so he would do this over and over again, that enough people kind of were just like, well, that's just Edgar, and that's just his active imagination. And they allowed him to be that way. There was no scolding. There was no put him in an insane asylum. There was no, it's just that he was odd, but he was allowed to be odd. So he was allowed to grow up in a scenario where his oddness was permitted and not really shunned upon. It was just allowed to be what it is. So growing up in that situation, he had different visions. He had different communications with the other world. And one of the visions he had when he was very young was that an angel came to him. And the angel said, Edgar, what would you like most out of the world? And he as he tells this story, he would say, what I want most out of the world is to help people. And specifically, I want to help people that are sick. And specifically, I want to help people that are sick that are kids. And here's, an 8 or 9 year old Edgar Cayce saying that he wants to help other kids that are sick. And so, this is the angel came to him and asked him what he wants, and this is what he said at about 8 or 9 years old. This was around the same time period that he started reading the Bible. And he read the Bible once a year his entire life. He was an avid reader of, biblical stories. And in his waking life, he was a Sunday school teacher. He wanted to aspire to become a pastor, but he just didn't get enough schooling for that. And so he became a Sunday school teacher, and people loved his stories. And he was very known to the Bible, and he used the stories of the Bible. So later on, when we started doing his readings, that was kind of the voice that came through. He has a very sort of religious tone to it that's universal, but it's coming from kind of an old English biblical sort of sense. And as I'll read some of the readings a little bit later, that's kind of where that information comes from. So around this time, he's starting to read the Bible, 8 or 9 years old. He has this vision of an angel coming down to him and asking him what he wants. And he's in, as time goes on, it's just, he has his make-believe friends that he hangs on to, and that's okay. And around 8th grade, he's doing very poorly in school. And his father, I've heard different stories of his father was about to beat him, or his father was, very angry with the fact that he was not performing as good as he could be in school. And he's like, Dad, before anything worse happens here, let me take 5 minutes and fall asleep on my book. And so he went over, and his dad said, sure, why not? He's a little odd. I'll give him a break for 5 minutes. He went over to his book, fell asleep on his spelling book, and, woke up and said to his dad, ask me any question from the whole book. And I'll tell you the page number, and I'll tell you where it is on the page, and everything. And he was able to do this with book after book after book. And it wasn't so much that he was gaining the knowledge, so all of a sudden he became this really intelligent Einstein. It was more like he was getting a photographic memory that if he was asked where something was in that text, he could then pull it up. And he could, so he was able to kind of see page by page. And so, for school, this was great. He was, his spelling grades and everything just were like, woohoo, they were, because he would fall asleep on his book. But work demands and farm life demands, he didn't make it past 9th grade. And that was the end of his formal education. He never made it past the 9th grade. And he started working. And, he fell in love with a woman in his town, and so, he really wanted to marry her, and he wanted to make enough money that he could marry her. So he started working, and he got different odd jobs, and kind of one of his more long-term jobs was as a salesman. And by this point in time, he's in his late teenage years. He's 17, 18, 19 years old. And he's a salesman, and he's selling things. And in that process of, being a salesman and going door to door, he lost his voice. And he just was not able to communicate to people anymore about trying to sell them the products that he was trying to sell. So he then started developing the career as a photographer, because as a photographer, he doesn't need to use his voice. And so he's a photographer talking very quietly the entire time, and he's doing this for like 2 or 3 years, figuring that it was done. His voice, there was nothing anybody could do for it. Passing through town was a gentleman by the name of Hark, and his traveling circus show type of thing was called Hark the Laugh King. So it was an entertainment business, and he was a hypnotist. And he heard about Edgar Cayce having lost his voice, and he said, I've seen some things happen that that are kind of odd under hypnosis. So let's try it out on him. And they put him under hypnosis, and he talked normally. And it was just the oddest thing. He hadn't been able to speak above a whisper for 2 years, and he was able to talk normally. So, came out of hypnosis, and his voice was gone. And, Hart was just like, well, let's do it again, And so the next day they do it again, and he's able to talk, and it's all good. And they stop, and he can't talk again. So, Hark has other entertainment gigs to do, so he leaves town. But there was another gentleman who was an osteopath that was kind of observing all this and was also a practicing hypnotist himself. And so he said, well, Edgar, he was friends with Edgar, let's try it again. And so he put Edgar under hypnosis. And while Edgar was under hypnosis, he spoke in anatomical terms, saying that he knows what's wrong and he knows what you need to do in order to fix it. And it was kind of, using this very straight voice when normally he had a whisper. And it was saying, we need to increase circulation in the throat area. And this is the suggestion you need to give this body. And so the guy by the name of Lane was the hypnotist there and said, okay, let's do that, And so increase the circulation. And first his chest got red, and then his throat got blood red, until finally it was completely glowing. And there was a lot of circulation for like 20 minutes. And there was just all this glow happening around his upper chest and throat. And then finally he said, the circulation has improved, and you can, tell this body to reduce the circulation. And he did, and when Edgar came out of the hypnosis, which he didn't remember any of this happening, he was able to speak normally. And like 6 months later, he lost his voice again. They did this again. It all worked. Happened 2 or 3 times, but he was able to speak, and he was cured. So he was able to go into this hypnotic state and cure himself. And it was great, you know, but nothing was really thought of it. This was not like earth-shattering, let's change the world. It was just weird. Nobody else had been doing anything like this, and it was just plain weird. So they didn't really, you know, it wasn't something like, let's write to the newspapers and you know, raise you up, because this is, you know, early 1900s, you know, and this is an experiment between an osteopath and Edgar Cayce. So as time went on, Edgar Cayce's wife had an illness, and they thought, well, maybe since Edgar Cayce was able to help himself, maybe he could help his wife. And so he was able to do what later was termed a reading by helping this other person. And so he did this also with Lane, who Lane had a stomach issue. And so he did it. He did the work. He went under hypnosis, and he was able to talk to Lane about, you know, what was wrong with Lane, and him being an osteopath, he was able to talk, Edgar Cayce is talking in anatomical terms with a 9th grade education about what was going on with his body and what needed to be improved and what needed to be worked on. And when he came out, Lane was just like, well, I mean, I'm a doctor, so everything that you just said was accurate. I can tell you that much, and I'm willing to try what you're telling me I need to do. And so he began to, you know, do what Edgar Cayce was recommending that he did, and he took care of himself. And he was just amazed by it. And then he told another doctor about it, and that doctor kind of said, well, I have a difficult case. Can you help me with this? And so things began to move, but at a snail's pace. It was not happening very quick. There was no earth-shaking type of thing. It was just slow word of mouth. And that's important because that's really how the entire organization has kind of unfolded, is a very slow-moving kind of thing. Edgar said he would not take money for it. This was not, he doesn't know if this is the, you know, he was very skeptical, having been a biblical person, if this is the work of the devil. And he was, you know, he was very concerned. He did a lot of prayers about it, and he talked to God about it, and he was very concerned. And he said, the first time I hurt somebody, I'm stopping. And, you know, and as things went on, he had different doctors kind of asking him questions, and it was working. The things that he was prescribing, they were really crazy remedies. They were not normal. He would recommend, you know, if someone was, a woman had, a little girl that was 6 years old had been having seizures and paralysis, and her brain had stopped working at the age of 3 when she had gotten sick. And so she had been 3 years of completely her brain not working and just deteriorated state. And they brought this to Edgar Cayce, and he said, well, 2 weeks before she got sick, or a week before she got sick, she fell off a carriage and injured her thoracic vertebra. And this is causing the issues. And so they gave her an adjustment, and 2 weeks later, she was recalling the name of the doll she had before she fell off the cart. She was calling her parents by name for the first time in 3 years. So we're having experiences that people were like, what you're doing is phenomenal. And he would always say, well, I'm not taking money for it. This is not something that I feel like, you know, this is a gift from God, and I'm not, you know, this is not about making money. And so time went on, and the 1920s are here now, and Edgar is beginning to experiment a little bit further through different people suggesting different things, and at some point in time it becomes a newspaper article in the New York Times, and people are sending him questions saying, you know, can you help me with this, can you help me with that? And he starts doing it a little bit more. And at some point he needs to travel. Before he realizes that he can work on somebody without them being in the room, he has to travel somewhere, and he doesn't have enough money to make it. So it's the first time he takes money, so someone pays for the train ride for him to go from one state to the next. So this was not, for Edgar Cayce, this was something that was kind of a side thing. He was still doing photography, and this was kind of a little odd, until the demands became so much that he was doing, you know, 2 readings in the morning and 2 readings in the afternoon, and that was taking up all of his time. Because he would normally, when he would go into the reading, he would, you know, loosen his tie, and he would loosen his belt and loosen his shoelaces, and he would lay down on a couch, and, you know, in front of everybody. He wasn't behind a curtain. He wasn't wearing a Hindu thing, or, you know, a beanie or whatever. You know, he was just, you know, just normal, just laying down, and he would sit there for about 15 minutes in silence with everybody around him, just sitting in silence, waiting for him to get to that place where he said, I'm ready for questions. And so people began asking him questions. First, it was health issues. And about 65% of the readings are based on health issues, people having health concerns, wanting to find remedies for them. And after that, people started asking other questions, sort of more metaphysical questions. Well, if you know all about the human body, do you know about this and do you know about that? So they started asking other questions. At one point in time, a gentleman was getting a life reading on where his life was going and what the purpose of it was, and he asked, well, my wife and I, we've been fighting. How long has this been going on? Or what was the cause of this? And Edgar said, well, the cause happened 15,000 years ago. And so when Edgar came out of this, it caused a long pause, because this is like the 1920s, and reincarnation was not something that was very popular in American culture, and reincarnation was not something popular in the Bible, Yeah, so it was not something that it was, So Edgar read that and stopped, and he says, this is against the Bible. I'm not doing this anymore. And he's completely stopped doing the readings for a period of time. And he was praying on it, and he was asking questions like, well, what does this all mean? Where is this information coming from? What's the purpose here? Is this for, the greater good? And as it turns out, he was getting a message to him and during his prayers and meditations that said, reread the Bible and reread it in a way that you believe in reincarnation. Let it speak to you in a way that, when they're talking about different things, that reincarnation exists. And so he did. He reread the Bible. And he said, okay, that fits. Continue on. And so they continued on. Started talking about astrology, talking about ancient history, talking about where we came from as beings onto this planet. And all of this information was being diligently recorded. Every word he had to say. The questions that came to him in telegrams were saved. The questions that were asked to him while he was doing the reading were saved. The correspondence he had with the person afterwards was saved. So we have every bit from the beginning of somebody asking a question to Edgar Cayce to the very end of, 3 years going by with correspondence going on between the two people about the continuing health of a certain person compared to the reading or the life reading. And we have people that are alive today that have had life readings from Edgar Cayce that talk about it. And so we have a very legitimate, and this is not a hard crowd to kind of convince that, this kind of stuff is real, but we have a very legitimate group of paperwork and readings that speak to this being a factual event with different people being held in different ways. And we have a variety of topics that were covered. One of the topics which I'm very interested in is on dreams. And that's what today's lecture is going to be about. It's specifically what Edgar Cayce had to say about dreams. Now you could take just about any topic, whether it was the missing years of Jesus, the life of Mary Magdalene, a lot of biblical topics were discussed. Ancient Egypt and times before that, reincarnation, astrology, what our purpose is on this planet, earth changes that are happening in the future that some have come true and others that kind of, because certain things haven't happened, haven't come true yet, but they're really veiled in kind of a mysterious language, so the more you read it, the deeper you get an understanding of, and that's the beauty of the readings. The more you read them, the more you understand that this layer is peeling off and I get a deeper understanding of what it's saying. So, at some point, Edgar Cayce said, where should we begin to develop this? We're doing these readings. Where should we move to that's going to be the best for us? And he gave a response to himself that Virginia Beach, Virginia was the best place to go. And this was before Virginia Beach was popular. And the reason that Virginia Beach was good was that it was surrounded by water on most of the sides. And water is a good conduit for psychic readings. And you can see differences in his readings from when they were in Kentucky or when he was in Ohio or New York. And so he had, these readings in Virginia were a little bit crisper because there was so much water there. And so that was the reason that he was recommended to go to Virginia Beach, Virginia, and start his center. And that was around 1926, 1927 that he and his family, on absolutely no money, moved to Virginia Beach. And one of the gentlemen that he was helping was a very rich investor. And he was asking Edgar Cayce stock questions, and so we had different people asking Edgar Cayce stock questions or horse race questions or where oil is, and Edgar found himself most of the time waking up from these with headaches or feeling sick, and he was realizing that this is not about producing money. That's not what this organization, or that's not what doing these readings is for. It's not about profit. If I start to profit from this, I'm going downhill in health, and it's really what was happening. So he would have a reading and he would not feel so well. So he moved to Virginia Beach, and he allowed this investor to dump a good chunk of money in helping him build his hospital, because he was having a hard time to have people follow the readings that he was giving with the remedies, because doctors would read the little telegram that he mailed saying, this is what we found out, you need to get some charcoal and eat some charcoal and do a castor oil pack and find this, just different remedies. And doctors were like, I'm not doing this, this is ridiculous. So in most cases, some cases doctors did follow it, and that's where you find people improving. So Edgar wanted a place where he could have what he called the Hospital of Enlightenment, a place where people could come, and it was full. It ran for 3 years with different hospital rooms and nurses and doctor staffs, and it was good. Edgar gave the reading, people came, they got the services that they needed, got colonics, got just a variety of different services, got massage, got adjustments, and this is what Edgar was recommending. Then the stock market crashed. And Edgar predicted it, not in very obvious ways. Not the stock market is going to crash, pull your money out. He said that there's going to be a fluctuation with the bull. So unless you're really paying attention, and figuring out what this means and deciphering what this is saying, it was kind of in retrospect that it was like, well, he was warning you about a change in the stock market. And so he predicted the stock market crash. And his investor lost all his money, and he had to close the hospital. And over the years, the hospital was bought by somebody else and was run by different people, became a community hall, and different paintings were put up, and it was a variety of different things until the 1950s or 60s that it was purchased back by the Edgar Cayce Foundation. And the building still stands today. It's where they have the Casey Riley School of Massotherapy, where I went to massage school. It has the day spa, where you can get all of the treatments that Edgar Cayce was recommending. You've been there? Yeah, and it's and people that have received a Casey Riley massage are just like, it's so different than anything else I've ever had. That was a phenomenal massage, and so it's the type of massage that's recommended. So there's a lot that I could go on about the spin-offs that have happened from this. But to make a long story short, with Edgar Cayce, he continued to do readings. And he suggested after the stock market crash that he create something called the ARE, or the Association for Research and Enlightenment, a place that people can get together and study the readings. Because there was so much information coming out of what he was saying that there wasn't enough time with 2 or 3 readings a day to read all of it. I mean, it had to be transcribed. They were writing it in shorthand, had to be transcribed and retyped. And I mean, that job wasn't even done until the 1960s or 70s. So, it's just like, we need an association to look at all this stuff that's coming through. And the waking Cayce was a little psychic on his own. He could read people's auras. He gave lectures quite a bit, and he was able to, by looking back over his readings, which he did not remember while he was under hypnosis, he was able to, kind of discuss what was happening. And there's a lot of neat stories, but one story that I like is that Edgar Cayce would come into a room to give a lecture, and he said that there's different kinds of people that can see different realities, different realms. There are those that are aware of different spirits all the time, and there are those that aren't. And he says, I'm one of those people that can turn the switch on and off. I can, if I want to, choose to see all the spirits in the room, or I can switch it off so it isn't. He goes, sometimes it's so hard to walk into a room because so many have gathered here to hear what's being said that I have to turn it off because I can't get to the podium. So there's lots of stories of that type of thing as well. So he moved to the Virginia Beach area. He conducted over 14,000 different readings on over 10,000 different topics. And in 1945, he passed away. And he passed away at the age of 67. This was around the time of World War II. He was getting bags and bags of mail because in the early 1940s, There Is a River came out, which was a book about Edgar Cayce's life, and he was getting bags and he couldn't turn it down. He was supposed to do 1 or 2 a day, 2 in the morning, 2 in the afternoon at most, and he was finding himself doing 8 or 9 readings a day, and he just wore himself out just like that. He had, his last reading was on his own health and said, you need to stop doing the readings, and that was it. And so he died, January 3rd, I do believe, of 1945. So the ARE was established, and a lot of other spin-offs were established. The Atlantic University, which is a university that offers a master's in transpersonal studies, is established and still going strong as a university offering a master's degree. And you can go there and learn on a variety of metaphysical topics, and that's also located in Virginia Beach, Virginia, right next door to the ARE. So the ARE, a lot of good information was sent to me when I told them I was going to be doing this lecture. And on the back over there, you're going to be able to take all of this stuff. It's all for free. Venture Inward is a magazine that they put out, and it's all metaphysical topics, talking about Edgar Cayce. They do this every 2 months. They do another Venture Inward magazine. So that's back there. The ARE bookstore and all the information, all the stuff that they sell. It's a phenomenal bookstore. The bookstore is located in the Visitor Center. The Visitor Center has a huge conference that can hold 400 or 500 people. The conferences there that happen there are phenomenal. They're 10, 12, 15 a year on such a great variety of topics. Big names like Andrew Weil come in or Weil, and just a lot of really well-known people have come there and spoken about a lot of very good topics. Some of my favorites are people that work there: Mark Thurston, John Van Ock, and Kevin Tedeschi. They work at the ARE and they speak regularly at the ARE, and they're phenomenal in the things that they have to say. My favorite conference that I've been to was on ancient civilizations and ancient mysteries, and it's phenomenal to hear about how 15,000 years ago we're discovering now texts of flying machines that ancient Indian people had. And operated on crystals, and we're finding actual texts on how these are built, and so we're discovering more about our ancient history now because we're able to dig a little bit deeper, and things are becoming, the earth is moving and exposing a little bit more, and it's great. It's great, and Edgar Cayce talked a lot about this stuff, and so we're discovering more about his readings now than we knew back then. So. There's the conference center, there's the bookstore on the second floor, there's a library, and it's the second, what I've been saying for a long time, and I think it's true, can't guarantee it, second largest metaphysical library in the world. The first largest metaphysical library is in the Vatican, and that one's not open to the public. So I think they have probably a phenomenal amount of books that I'd love to go check out, but at this center here, they've got a great collection, a huge collection of book upon book upon book upon book. So, and it's also all their lectures that they've done, very similar to this beautiful collection here. And as an ARE member, you can send away and get any book you want. They'll mail it to you. So there's lots of membership is an aspect that some of the stuff that they sent me as well. A flyer on becoming a member, and the Venture Inward, and again, every 2 months you get another magazine on ancient mysteries, true health, or personal spirituality, and you get to choose. And so there's a lot of good stuff as a member. There's also a flyer on the Visitor Center itself. And Bar Products is the official Cayce sponsor, so he does all the Cayce remedies and the Radiac radial appliance that Cayce talks about, and all that you can buy from Bar as well. So there's a lot of good stuff. It's all for free back there about the ARE and more information, so feel free to take all that stuff on the table. And so that allows me to segue into giving you a few readings of what Edgar Cayce had to say, and then we'll begin to talk about dreams and what he had to say about dreams. So Edgar would go into that hypnotic state, and he would find himself relax, his eyes would flutter a little bit, and people would ask him questions. And so he would have so many different things to say, and some of the quotes I've got here. One thing is, and when he would have a reading, it would be, this reading right here is reading 2030-1. 2030 was a random number signed to somebody after they used their name for a while, but they decided these are pretty personal readings because it's about this specific person. Give them a number, and then the -1 is the first reading that person got. So if you get 2030-3, it's the third reading that 2030 got. So this is reading 2030-1, and it says, know that it is not all just to live, not all just to be good, but good for something, that ye may fulfill that purpose for which ye have entered this experience. Reading 1739-6 is, ideas may be as thoughts made criminal or miracles. And I mean, we're discovering this, way more now about, what we put on water and thoughts that we put on water and words that we put on water. So ideas may be as thoughts made criminal or miracle. Be sure that the ideal is proper. Follow that irrespective of outside influence. Know self is right, and then go straight ahead. And so Cayce talked a lot about ideals, of having this thing that you say, I really want my life to be more spiritual, and I want to, find myself full of love. That's my ideal, to be full of love. And Cayce really promoted, have an ideal with your life. If you have something that you're focused on, that you're trying to attain, that makes yourself better, it will inevitably make everybody around you also affected towards the betterment. And our whole evolution, our whole group of people, our whole planet will evolve together. So having an ideal is important. He says, know the first principles. There is good in all that is alive. Reading 470-37, this is the 37th reading that this person has gotten. Don't get mad and don't cuss a body out mentally or in voice. This brings more poisons than may be created by taking foods that aren't good. So don't get mad, don't cuss, because that's poisonous to your own body. So go out, eat McDonald's as much as you want and talk good about people, and you're set. More individuals become so anxious about their own troubles, and yet helping others is the best way to rid yourself of your own troubles. Reading 2803-2, justifying of self is blaming someone else. I like that one. So this reading is a little bit longer, and it's just to give you a flavor of it. There is that access, then, that way to the throne of grace, of mercy, of peace, of understanding within thine own self. There is access within yourself to that. For he has promised to meet thee in thy own temple, in thine own body, through thine own mind, and then enter into the Holy of Holies with thine own consciousness. Turn within, see what has prompted thee, and he has promised to meet thee there. And there shall it be told thee from within the steps thou shouldst take day by day, step by step. Not that some great exploit, some great manner of change should come within thine body, thine mind, but line upon line. And that's a big thing for Edgar Cayce. Take it one small step at a time, and you will evolve, you will grow, you will change, line upon line, precept upon precept, here a little, there a little. For it is, as he hath given, not the knowledge alone, but the practical application in thine daily experience with thine fellow man that counts. So what you're doing with your life, that's what counts. So, that some of the readings. There's another reading that's I really like it, so I guess I'll read it because I really like it. It's about astrology. And again, we're talking about the 1920s, 1930s, 1940s, and Edgar Cayce is talking about, he's, this new age Christian man. I mean, it was just this whole brand new type of thing that had been forgotten, but reborn and come back again. He's talking about astrology. And, for me, astrology has always been like, okay, my sun's here, my rising's here, and this is how, this is what it means, that this is what's going to happen in my life. And that's what I always took astrology at until I read this. then all these influences, astrological, as known or called, from without, bear witness, or are as innate influences upon our activity, our sojourn through any given experience. Not because we were born with the sun in this sign or that, not because Jupiter or Mercury or Saturn or Uranus or Mars was rising or setting, but rather because we were made for the purpose of being companions with Him. Then we have brought these about because of our activities through our experiences in those realms. So we have brought about having the sun rising here and the moon rising there by our experiences in those realms. Hence, they bear witness by being in certain positions, because our activity, our sojourn in those environs, in relationships to the universal forces of activity. Hence, they bear witness of certain urges in us, not beyond our will, but controlled by our will. And so it just gives you a new spin on what astrology is. This is something that is not forcing us to be certain ways, but it's a witness of the ways that we have because we've been to those places as in other dimensions and other spirits and that kind of thing. And time is a very elusive thing once you start talking about all that. So, we could have, been there for hundreds of years on each place before coming here, what if you define it by years. So very fascinating in that way on what he has to say about astrology. And like I said, there's over 14,000 of these, so you can dig and dig and dig and find out more and more. And the more you read them, the more you understand this kind of foreign language that Edgar's kind of talking in. So there's more readings that I want to give you on what he has to say specifically about dreams, but I really want to talk a little bit about dreams right here before we have a break. So, are dreams really that important to us? And dreams have been with us forever. It's something that we have had in our lives since the very beginning. When we first started writing things down, now ancient Egypt scrolls and all that, and our modern civilization writing things down, we have people writing down dream interpretations and doing dream incubations. But prior to that, prior to written language, it's obvious that we've been dreaming. So this thing that's been happening forever to us, it's important because it's here. Otherwise, we wouldn't have it. It's a safe doorway to go through and to explore what is going on in our sleep. Dreams, Cayce says, are here to make our lives better. They help us physically. Dreams they can tell us things that are going on physically with us. They help us mentally about issues that are going on, and they can help us evolve spiritually. That's the purpose of our dreams, is they are here to make our lives better. You have the dreams you have each night to make your life better. That's its purpose. So, like I just said, dreams keep us healthy. They mentally help us grow, and they spiritually help us grow. Mark Thurston, who I've done some dream workshops with while I was over in Virginia Beach, gave this really eloquent quote that said, when you're working on your dreams, it's not about solving a puzzle. It's about experiencing a mystery. And so when you have a dream and you've written it down or you're trying to go back through it, it's not about this piece matching this piece and this piece trying to match these pieces up to make a big picture. It's about re-experiencing the mystery that you had while you slept. And so it's not a puzzle to be solved, but a mystery to be experienced. So dreams are important to us. Edgar Cayce gave us over 900 readings on dreams specifically. So there was a good chunk of those 14,000 that were dedicated towards what happens while we sleep at night. 26 people, including Edgar Cayce himself, brought their dreams to him. And so we have 26 different people that have had their dreams interpreted, and one of those is Edgar Cayce. Edgar interpreted over 180 of his own dreams. So, and that's over a 17-year period. So we have a pretty good recorded history of one person's growth, and that's Edgar Cayce's in the dream world. So with all those 180 different dreams, you can kind of watch as he's dealing with issues, and then you can see that he's covered that issue and he's moving on to the next. some of Edgar Cayce's dreams came to him while he was in the state of hypnosis. And he would come out and not remember anything that he had said about helping somebody who was, hundreds of miles away. But he would remember a dream he had. And so later he would go under hypnosis and he would say, let's interpret that dream that I had the last time I was under hypnosis, and then he would do an interpretation of it. He not only interpreted dreams, but he also gave us general knowledge on the dream world itself. So he gave us some good feedback and some good information on where our dreams come from, what the purpose is of our dreams, gave us general knowledge of the dream world itself. He gave us a practical approach. So Edgar Cayce was talking about dreams around the same time that Sigmund Freud was talking about dreams. And Sigmund Freud really, broke through the barrier to bring dreams back into our modern day culture. They had been shunned away. The Christian religion said they were of the devil. Let's not discuss them. Just put them away. And Sigmund Freud came in with this pendulum swinging to the far extreme, saying, dreams are our hidden, suppressed feelings about all sexual desires, and this is what dreams are. And he broke it out of the shell. He allowed it to become a topic on the table. And a student of his, Carl Jung, came up and was studying under him and realized that, it's really not. That's not what I really believe. I believe that dreams kind of tap into this collective unconsciousness, and that dreams can, have an important message to us. They can help us. And so you have Sigmund Freud and Carl Jung kind of talking about this stuff. You have Edgar Cayce with his 9th grade education talking about this stuff as well. And what Carl Jung and Edgar Cayce had to say were very similar. They really matched up. And the two of them never communicated throughout their lives. Is it Switzerland or Sweden that Carl Jung was over in, and so they never communicated. There were never any letters between them. They didn't know of each other. It was not something that but they were talking very similar. Carl Jung talking about the collective unconscious, Edgar Cayce talking about the superconscious. They were very similar concepts. So, Carl Jung and Sigmund Freud were giving us a very clinical approach. They were giving us, sit down in my office. We'll spend 15 minutes or 20 minutes, we'll talk about your dream, and we'll approach it from a very clinical view. I have the knowledge. I have the answers. I can help you unlock this. And Edgar Cayce said, no, that's not the way that dreams are. He gave us a very practical approach, saying that the person that had the dream is the best interpreter of the dream they just had, because the symbols in that dream are their own. They're the ones that know what a speeding train going 100 miles an hour down and plowing people over means to them. And so the symbols in a dream are the dreamer's own, and therefore they are the best interpreter of their dreams. So he took dream interpretation out of the hands of the experts, and he put it back into where it really belongs, is in the hands of the individuals. And he gave us this premise. And if you follow this premise, then you will be able to work with your dreams. Anyone who will record their dreams in an attitude of prayerful persistence can, in time, restore the dream faculty. So, the dream faculty is this disused or discredited function of the higher mind. It's this function of the higher mind that we just haven't been using for a long time, so we can restore the dream faculty. So anyone who will record their dreams, and that's the first key, you have to write them down. You can't leave them in the etherical realm. It's dreams have to be brought to paper for you to really be able to work on them. So anyone who will record their dreams in an attitude of prayerful persistence. An attitude of prayerful persistence is saying that by writing my dreams down, I think that and I believe that they're here to help me. The purpose of my dream life is to help me evolve in some way. It's to help me grow. It's to help me to be a better person. If I have a really awful dream, it's telling me something about something that's going on in my life. And it's there to help me. If I face the awfulness that I saw in my dream, symbolically somehow going on in my life, it will help me grow. It will help me evolve. It will help me change. And if I grow and evolve and change, then I will become a better person. And that's the purpose of our dreams. So going into it with that attitude, Anyone who will record their dreams in an attitude of prayerful persistence can, in time, restore the dream faculty. So you can restore this portion of your higher mind that helps you interpret your dreams. And so that's the premise. Write them down. Look at them as something that helps you, and you will restore this faculty, this dream faculty. And in the 6 years that I have been really focusing on writing my dreams down, which I've been doing that before as well, but in the Cayce sort of philosophy, I have gotten to a point where I can just interpret my dream by rolling over and kind of dazing back into sleep and being like, what did that mean? And then come out of it and be like, oh, that's really where it's affecting my life. And it's kind of by breaking through that barrier of writing it over and over again and interpreting it over and over again and getting to that place where you've restored that ability for your higher mind to interpret your dream. So, Cayce says that the best interpreter of the dream is the dreamer, him or herself. Just as the symbols in the dream are individual to the person, just as each person is individual, so are the symbols to the dreams. So, Cayce gave us a model of where dreams came from, and this is very helpful for understanding the dream world and where all that comes from. Cayce gave us a picture that looks like this. He explained it to somebody, and they wrote it down, and they went back into the reading, and they said, is this what you mean? And he said, well, adjust this, and move this, and change this, and yeah, that's what I mean. And so this is what we came up with. Cayce says there's 3 things that we need to focus on. Can you see this? Is this, okay. There's 3 parts of who we are. This is where we are, and there's 3 parts to us. We have a body, a mind, and a spirit. A very famous quote of Edgar Cayce's is, spirit is the life, mind is the builder, and physical is the result. We come from spirit, we create our reality with our mind, and what we see around us is the result of what we've created with our mind. So, that's a very, it's a really good quote of just kind of understanding, but we have 3 aspects of what we are, body, mind, and spirit. Can also be related as consciousness, subconsciousness, and the superconsciousness. So these 3 aspects are, also what make us up, our conscious, our subconscious, and our superconscious. Dreams, Edgar Cayce says, come from our subconscious mind. This is where our dreams come from. We are consciously aware of our physical reality around us. We are, picking up on the, if the room temperature is above or below normal, we pick up on that. We're consciously aware. We're aware of looking at the board right now. We're consciously aware of our physical reality that keeps us safe and okay. Our subconsciousness is picking up on every single little thing. It's picking up on the, other 98% of the reality that we're missing out on, such as, people's facial gestures, somebody's energy, how many traffic lights we went through to get here, or stop signs we went through to get here. It's remembering all this stuff. It's logging it all, and, in this great big database. When we fall asleep at night, we pass through what John Van Auken says is a veil so thin we don't know it's there, but so opaque we can't see through it. So we pass through a veil when we fall asleep at night into the realm of our subconscious, where every single thing that's happened to us yesterday and previous lives, due to being what's up here, is possible to be used as symbology to get a message across about what's going on with us, body, mind, and spirit, and what we need to work on, body, mind, and spirit. It's like links in a chain. If one place is a little weak, it's hard for us to take that next evolutionary step. If physically we're not healthy, if mentally we're struggling with being really angry at somebody, it doesn't allow us to take that next evolutionary step to grow. And so this is what your dreams will focus on, body, mind, or spirit, something that you need to work on in your life that will help you take the next step in your evolution. And so Edgar Cayce says that dreams come from our subconscious mind, which is what everything is that's going on. What dips into that subconscious mind is what is called the Akashic Records. And this is described as a vast river flowing through eternity, fed by the sum total of man's mental activity. So the Akashic Records is everything that's ever happened, thought or action. It's been imprinted up in the ethers. And when we sleep at night, we can tap into this. And Edgar Cayce, when he went under hypnosis, was able to tap into this. So the other piece to this picture is that this is connected for infinity on the spiritual realm to everybody else. So up here, that super consciousness, that collective consciousness, that God element, that whatever you want to call it, it connects all of us for infinity. We fall asleep at night, and our subconscious mind, which is tapped into our superconscious mind, is capable of being a part of other people's lives through that spiritual realm. So you can dream of other people. You can have other people visit you in your dreams, because we are connected on that spirit level, one to another to another. And so that's what Edgar Cayce said as part of an explanation of how all of this works. So what Edgar Cayce would do was he would go under hypnosis, he would check out of his conscious body, and he would hop on the Akashic Records. He would maybe go visit somebody else physically, mentally, or spiritually, find out what was going on with them, and he would report it back here. And he would say, all right, this is what's going on with this person, no matter if they were sitting next to him or if they were 10,000 miles away. It didn't matter. He could go, because we're all connected up in this realm, he could go find where that person was, knowing their name and their location. And so this is something that we are all able to tap into. We're all able to be psychic. And Edgar Cayce says we could all be psychic if we become more spiritual. That's how you become more psychic, is becoming more spiritual. What do I mean by spiritual? By improving yourself, body, mind, and spirit. You know, by anything that you can do to help you make that next step that is for the betterment of not only yourself, but everybody else. It's break time. So thank you very much for your attention for the last hour. All right, we're golden. Let's start with quotes from Edgar Cayce. Got a handout here. I'm just going to hand out chunks, and hopefully they'll find the right homes.
Thanks for doing
And just pass it around if you don't mind. If you're a couple, take one, just so we can make enough and make it stretch. So specifically, what did Edgar Cayce have to say on dreams? The first one there is that sleep is that period when the soul takes stock of what it has acted upon from one rest period to another. So when we're asleep, our soul is looking at how have we behaved from one rest period to another. So when you're going and looking at your dream, say, how does it reflect the previous day? You know, how does it have anything to do with what happened to me yesterday, or when you wake up in the morning? So sleep is that period when the soul takes stock of what it has acted upon from one rest period to another. The second one down, for such experiences, dreams, visions, and the like are but the activities in the unseen world of the real self of the entity. So this is our real self that our dreams are showing us in order to help us evolve, in order to help us grow. The fourth one down, a study from the human standpoint of the subconscious, which is this right here, where our dreams come from, of the subconscious, subliminal, psychic, soul forces. Study of this is and should be the great study for the human family. For through self, man will understand his maker. When he understands his relation to his maker, he will understand that relationship only through himself. So a little wobbled there, but what it's saying is that by getting to know who you are, you get to know your divine connection. You get to know what, so another Cayce quote is, the best book is self, and that's what's written above the library. The best book is self. The best thing you could study is who you are, because that is your connection to the divine. So when you have a dream at night and you say, okay, what does this dream reflect? If you're honest with what you did with your previous day. If you're honest with saying, you know what, I'm aware that I was mean to that person. I'm aware that I wasn't the greatest in this situation, or I'm aware that I did this really well, and that God was working through me at that time. When you become aware of your actions and what's going on within your own body, that connects you to the divine. So, the great study is of your subconscious, for through self you will understand your maker. The fifth one down, dreams are his desire to make for man a way for an understanding. So we have a dream, it's a way for us to understand. It's just deciphering it and learning to reactivate that dream faculty. All dreams are given for the benefit of the individual, would he or she but interpret them correctly. The next one down is about nightmares. There are those dreams that are of the purely physical nature, the reaction of properties taken in the system when digestion is not in keeping with assimilation, and then one experiences those conditions that may be called nightmares. What's that mean? Well, you eat a really awful meal, your body is having a hard time digesting it. Or even if it's a good meal, but you're allergic to something in it, it's a poison. All of a sudden you're having a nightmare of running from something or battling something. So not every nightmare, but it's possible when you look at the nightmares you've had. For me, I don't necessarily look as much as, by experience, as much as nightmares, as much as nights of tossing and turning. And having repeat thoughts of stirring of work and being why am I not getting this dream out of my head? And just kind of being a little frustrated. It's kind of well, what did I eat before I went to sleep? And that's a really good indicator that, that fourth slice of pizza wasn't the best idea at 10:30. So it's a good indicator of are you tossing and turning? What are you, and another thing that, going through the Casey Riley school and Allie and I bouncing ideas off of each other, certain vitamins. Vitamin C, right? Vitamin C is just, if you take that before bed, you're going to have a wicked night's sleep. So it's, because vitamin C is a very active kind of vitamin. So be conscious of the vitamins you're taking before, what you put into your body before you go to sleep. I'm not a pharmacist, don't, whatever.
Physical pain can cause nightmares too.
Yeah, physical pain can cause nightmares, yeah. So on the back side of that are some longer quotes I'm not going to get into, but it's a little bit more readings of Edgar Cayce's if you wanted to dive into that. Now, very briefly, I'd like to just, step away from the Edgar Cayce concepts and kind of bring, science into the picture and talk about what science has done through testing us, the human guinea pigs, what we've discovered scientifically. First of all, everyone sleeps and everyone dreams. So even if you're not somebody that's remembering your dreams, you are dreaming. They've hooked electrodes up to people's heads and they've made sure that the brain was active, and if they woke you up at that point in time, you were having a dream. So everybody sleeps and everybody dreams. Dreaming is a right-brained activity. It's the creative and intuitive side of your brain that's active. Dreaming has a profound impact on our health. They have conducted tests where they've deprived sleepers of dreaming, and the results have shown that there are psychological ramifications as well as body imbalances that have led to disease. If you are not allowed to dream, you get sick. That's how important dreaming is to us. You're not allowed to dream, you get sick. Now typically, dreams come in 90-minute cycles. Every 90 minutes you're getting a new dream that lasts 3 to 30 minutes long. So that's the typical, and you have 5 to 6 dreams per night, and people usually remember 2 to 3 per week. Now, I've been doing this lecture long enough and I've been speaking that reality long enough. That's exactly what my pattern is. 2 to 3 dreams a week end up in my dream journal book. So that's what science has decided and told us through all their testing and all that that's pretty much the common norm. So, what if you don't remember your dreams? How many in here do not remember their dreams? Okay, another handout on different recall techniques. Did we get enough handouts of the first one? Okay, because I'm seeing extra copies of it, so. Did you get?
Yeah, we did.
Okay. Uh-huh. So these are different recall techniques. So, write down and review regularly a statement of purpose. So have a dream. The first thing is have a dream journal book. What I do is on one side of my dream journal book is the events of my day. And I just keep the other side blank. And I write down on one side of an entire book what my journal book is, what I decide to write about. And then I have dreams. And I write down my dreams. And they don't have to correspond with the same day. But if you flip through the pages and look at a dream and look at the corresponding day, there's a good chance you're going to see a reflection of the events that happened in your day and what your dream might be pointing to. So, in order to help write down your dreams, write down a statement of purpose. Write down a purpose of why you're doing this. Make your conscious mind aware that you want the door to open to your subconscious mind when you're asleep. And when you wake up in the morning, try not to do too many conscious things. You know, it's harder to remember your dream after you've started making breakfast. And it's a conscious activity. And that was what that quote from John Van Auken was saying, is that when we wake from a dream, we're stepping through a veil so opaque, we don't know it's so thin we don't know it's there, and so opaque we can't see through it. So we're stepping through this veil that we don't even know that we're stepping through out of the dream world into our waking self. And when we look back and be like, I had such a great dream, the wall is there, and you don't remember what it is. So do less before you write down your dream. My dreams come to me at 3:15 in the morning, and that's the time that my bladder has filled up. So I have a nice little night light in my bathroom, so it's not too demanding on my brain to have this bright light, enough for me to write by. I don't want to mess with a candle because I'll burn myself. I'm not awake. So a nice, quiet little night light in your bathroom. If you have a dream, grab your pen and paper, sit on the throne. It's a comfortable seat. They designed it that way. Write down your dream. That's the purpose. You know, that's just nice. Don't do too many things. Don't make your conscious mind too active. Leave the consciousness and just try and keep that doorway open between the two worlds. Repeating a mantra before you go to sleep at night. If I've gone through a period where I haven't remembered my dreams for a while, I will say to myself, I'm going to remember, what I'm going to say to myself is, tonight I'm going to have a very good night's sleep. I'm going to wake up rested, and I'm going to be remembering my dreams. And so there you are, creating that reality that you're going to get a good night's sleep. I mean, you could do that without wanting to remember your dreams. Tonight, I'm going to get a good night's sleep. Tonight, I'm going to get a good night's sleep. Tonight, I'm going to get a good... Just repeat that over and over again. I sleep deeper when I create that reality, when my mind builds the reality of a good night's sleep. But also say that you'll remember your dreams. And that helps, because you wake up and the first thing, what was the last thing I was saying before I went to sleep? Yet if you're repeating a mantra, and if it's remember your dreams, you're like, what was the dream? And lie in bed and think about it. I write my dreams down backwards. What was the last thing that happened? Because I woke up remembering there I was jumping out a window. And how did I get there? Oh, I got there by doing this. How did I get there? And I got there and the dream unfolds backwards. And when I go to interpret it, I just write down the dream front to, and I rewrite the dream front to back. But if I write it down backwards, it helps me remember what happened before that, what happened before that. So I don't have to remember the whole dream, just the last part that got me to that point. Because dreams are weird in the sense that weird things are happening, and this doesn't really relate to that. But if you write it down backwards, you don't have to try and grasp the big picture. So read over the rest of that yourself. I don't want to waste too much time since it's all pretty obvious stuff there on different techniques on how to remember your dreams. So the question was proposed to Edgar Cayce, why don't we remember our dreams? And he gave us 4 reasons. 1, lack of interest. Your conscious mind is not really interested in the subconscious world. You're not going to remember your dreams. 2, physical exhaustion. If you're just doing so much consciously and doing with your body and your go, 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 you wake up in the morning, it's not a high priority for you to be taking that 10, 15 minutes to write your dream down or to even remember it. So if you're physically exhausted, if you're doing so much, when you go to sleep at night, that doorway is not so easily opened because you're physically trying to repair your body. You're trying to just kind of keep it going. So, physical exhaustion. 3rd one is impurities of the body. It's another reason why we don't remember our dreams, is if our body is not pure, if it's got a lot of impurities, if it's clouded, if it's not healthy, it's harder to, again, for that veil to be clearer. So because our body is taking up so much and it's cloudy. So physical impurities. And Edgar Cayce said the fourth reason is materialism, focused on just the conscious world, being materialistic, not into spiritual concepts or ideas. So those are the four reasons Edgar Cayce says why we don't remember our dreams. He says, you're not remembering your dreams, you're neglecting yourself, body, mind, and spirit. You need to take care of your body, your mind, and your spirit. Meditate more. Have an ideal, something that you're focused upon that's higher than yourself. Have a good diet. Improve your diet. Get enough sleep. If your meditation and your prayer life improves, your dream life improves right with it. They're hand in hand. And so I'd like to move on to the final handout that I have for you, which is some guidelines on how to work. Oh, okay. Any recall? Good, thank you. Okay, good, good. There's right here. It's okay. Oh, did I just take that from you? Okay. Mm-hmm. Of the recall, right there. Okay. Do we have extras? Okay. That one? Uh-huh. Okay, so here is some tips on working with your dreams. This is general information. You can dive a lot further into the dream world. This is a general type of thing. This is kind of what I like to consider 80% of what's happening in our dreams, 70 to 80%. Basic dream guidelines. Define the dream before you dream. Ask a question. So right there, it's a brand new world if you take the time and say, I've got a question, and I'm going to ask my subconscious to answer it for me, and write it down. Whether that's a question about your physical health, whether that's a question about something that's going on in your life, whether it's a question about a spiritual ideal. If you're consciously concerned about it, then your subconscious is more than likely helping you along the way to say, this is the next thing you need to work on. So let's work on this. And so if you ask a question, more than likely, your dream will focus on that question. So, an example. I was having really bad psoriasis on my scalp. And I said, what's causing my skin to have problems? Why is my head having the issues it's having? So at the time, I was in massage school, and we were studying anatomy and physiology. And so the dream was using some images, and I was using in my interpretation an understanding of where I was at with understanding this. And I was also working on a speech on or a paper on psoriasis. So it was all there. I was consciously aware, and I was subconsciously aware, and I was focused on it. And I was asking the question, help me understand why my skin is having the problems it's having. And so really before I started doing the research, but I was in the frame set of doing it, I had a dream that I was standing in my house. And most of the times when you're standing in a house, it's your physical body. Depending on what floor you're on, body, mind, and spirit, first, second, third, could be multiple floors, higher up, lower. There's some obvious symbology that you can get from really any dream symbol book, but just to help you understand those symbols. But I was standing in my house, and I was looking at the ceiling, and I was seeing the pipes. And the pipes were leaking. And that was the dream. So that dream on itself doesn't tell me much. But if with a question, what's causing my skin to have problems? Well, in my anatomy class and in my studies, I'm discovering that the skin is the largest organ of the body. And for toxins to be leaking out through your skin means that they're leaking from somewhere. And the pipes of the body are your intestines. And so here I was seeing that my intestinal walls were probably weak, and they need to be built up. And so by building up my intestinal walls, it stops the psoriasis because I'm no longer leaking toxins into my bloodstream, which are going out of my skin. So there was asking a question and getting an answer from the dream. Another question I asked was, I've got 2 vehicles. I'm living in Virginia Beach. I want to go to Oregon. Should I keep them and travel across the country, or should I sell them? And the dream was that I was in my apartment complex and trying to become the president of the apartment complex. That was the dream concept. And so my job was to drive around town and get people to call in for me to vote for me. So that was my job. So I looked at the map, which was a Monopoly board, and my piece was the car. So I mean, really, this dream is really on top of what my dream question is. And so there I am driving around town getting signatures. And I realize that I've run out of people in town, and I need to leave town. So I start driving, and I start going up a mountain, and lo and behold, it starts to snow, and I can't make it. And I have to turn around and come back into town. And I woke up from that dream knowing that I needed to sell my vehicles because they're not going to make it out of town. So there the dream answered a specific question. Define your dream before you dream. Yeah. So next bullet down is that everything in the dream is about yourself. Everything in the dream is about yourself. So the image that's coming to your mind right now, oh, that's not me, is you. It's a reflection of you somehow. There is an aspect of yourself that you see in other people. That's what makes you like or dislike them. So when that person shows up in your dream, think about it. Take some time and write down, what do you like and dislike about that person? More than likely, they're characteristics that internally you like or dislike about yourself. And that's the reason that that person is showing up in that dream to get that message across to you. Now, it's a little foggy at first to try and figure all this out, but once you start working with symbols and you start asking deeper and deeper questions, very Carl Jung style, that's what Mark Thurston really used a lot of that in his teachings of how to interpret your dreams, to get these Cayce concepts around of understanding how this symbol is a reflection of who you are, whether it's a person or a building or an automobile or whatever. Everything in the dream, look at it from that point, it's a reflection of who you are. So put yourself in the shoes of the person in the dream. And how are they acting? How are they acting towards you? What's your internal dialogue going on with that? Just try it. Just put yourself in their shoes. So there's a lot of different things you can play around with dream interpretation and symbology. The next bullet down, everything in the dream is connected by cause and effect. So everything is related. Even though you jump from scene to scene, they are related. So look at it that way. One whole dream is pointing to one concept that you need to look at within yourself. You are responsible for everything that happens in the dream. So whatever is going on in that dream, however twisted it may be, or however wonderful it is, or whatever is going on, you are responsible for that. Your soul is reflecting upon what it's done from one rest period to another. That's your dream, your symbology, your stuff going on. And finally, avoidance in the dream. What are you avoiding in real life? Because that's a good one. That's definitely a good one, is avoiding things in dreams. And if it's reoccurring, take some time to look at it, because once you look at it, once you deal with it, once you learn from what the dream is telling you, you won't have it anymore. Because you've grown. And if you're stuck in the same place over and over again, that's because you haven't allowed yourself to look at that issue. It's the scariest thing to look at yourself. But once you do, it's the greatest thing you ever did. Because this being scared of it is just the fear. And then you get past it. So, along the lines of all that, another dream I had, I said, what's going to help me with my dreams lecture? I need something to help me with my dream lecture, just to help me understand it a little bit better. And so the dream I had that night was I had an orange and white Volkswagen bus. And it was, 3 stories. So it was really cool. I was really fascinated by it. So I walked up to it, and I opened up the front door, and there was brand new carpet. And it was just brand new tools, and everything was shiny, and it was like, buses aren't like that, So it was just awesome to have all this shiny, nice stuff. And I was like, that's great. And so I stood on my tippy toes. I looked at the second floor, and there was a bed, and over the driver's seat was a table and chair and pen and paper. And then so I went around the back, and I climbed up the ladder in the back, and I looked in the very tippity top 3rd floor, and there was a vanity mirror, bright lights, and a stool. And the rest of the room was empty. And I was like, whoa, what does this mean? And here I am drawing this picture. Bottom floor is your body. Keep it clean. Keep it well running. That's your temple. And this is what the dream was telling me. Just take care of your body. Put it in good shape. Give it the oil changes it needs. Get a colonic. Just do something to help flush out the system. Second floor, this is where your dreams are coming from. Write them down. Take the time to write them down. That's an important aspect to interpreting your dreams. And the third floor, that spirit realm, a vanity mirror helps you get to see every pore on your face, every wrinkle, everything about you that could be wrong that you want to criticize, or it could be right. And so take a good look at yourself, because this is the way to see into the spiritual world, is by getting to know who you are. Every wrinkle, every crease, every scar. So that was the dream that helped me with my dream lecture of understanding all these concepts and how important it is that these three levels are really the only things you need to look at. Body, mind, and spirit. So, moving on, I think to have question and answer period, I've got about 5 minutes left, so I'm going to kind of burn through some of this stuff pretty quick. Life inventory list, kind of talked about this a little bit earlier, is what you're focused on in your conscious life most is more than likely what your subconscious mind is like, all right, if that's what you want to work on, let's work on that so we can move on to new ideas and new things. And so what out of this list is most important to you? Because that's more than likely what you're going to dream about. And Cayce says there are 3 different types of symbols. And symbol books, I have a couple of different good symbol books up here. So this is a really good symbol book. Kevin Tedeschi's is a really good. Symbol books are really good to look at to get ideas of what something means, but really the symbol's inside yourself. And once you learn a symbol, then you're like, oh, okay, if that's what that means, then the next time I have a dream, it probably could mean that same thing, or you could take it another level deeper. So symbol books are good, but just know that you are the true interpreter of that symbol in that dream. And flipping the page over is the 5-step technique, which is outlined in detail in How to Interpret Your Dreams by Mark Thurston. This 5-step technique is really good on being able to just kind of see where you're at with the dream. So you want to write down the feelings of the dream, and you want to write down all the different aspects of the actions and the feelings. And then getting into a simple storyline. What is, if you broke the dream down into a very simple storyline, what's the action? What's happening in your dream? And you take that and you're like, okay, so the dream is telling me that someone is running from something. Okay, in my real life, I'm running from something. What does this mean? And then you take it a little bit deeper. Amplify the symbols. So you take a symbol and you ask, what is that symbol? What do I like about that symbol? What do I dislike about that symbol? What are the benefits of it? What are the disadvantages of it? As you do this, you learn more and more about who you are, because you're really just uncovering more and more of yourself. And then you can interpret the dream by asking the questions. Does this dream apply literally to current life situation? Can this dream be a result of some current fear? So you ask this question about what the dream is. And then the 5th step is apply the dream. And that's the key to the whole thing. Is you take the information that's given to you, because what's happening is that a divine helping hand is coming down and saying, here, this is what you need to work on in your life. Take it. Figure it out. You can figure it out. The answers are within you. Now apply the information. Use it. You're given this beautiful, divine helping hand, psychic information. Apply it. Now, how do I know I've interpreted the dream correctly in order to apply it? Well, first of all, is your application of it going to hurt anybody else? Is it going to hurt you? Is it for the betterment? That's a really good question to start with. And if it isn't, or you don't know the interpretation, go to sleep the next night and say, help me figure out the dream I had last night, because I can't figure it out. I need a better understanding of it. You'll get a second dream and compare the two and see how they relate. Play with your dream world. It's here to help you. And then once you figure out that, that symbol of a train running 100 miles an hour running into a car, it could kind of connect with the fact that I've been going really fast lately. Aha! You've just kind of figured out that that's what that means. You've had that aha moment, that moment of insight that, well, I think that's what that means. You've just interpreted your dream. It's not this phenomenal thing that's beyond you that, the angels are going to sing. It's, you just figured out something. I mean, it kind of, you stumble upon it. It just happens. And all of a sudden you had that moment of, that's what the dream means. Wow. And you've just interpreted it. Now that you've just interpreted it, apply what it's telling you to apply. I need to slow down. Listen to it. Slow down. If you don't, then you begin to kind of, if you're given insights into how to be a better person and then you choose not to use them, that's really just shooting yourself in the foot. Edgar Cayce had a dream, was told what the dream meant. 6 months later, went back and had another dream and asked to interpret that dream, and under the psychic state said to himself, we've interpreted this kind of dream before and you did not follow it, we won't interpret it again. I mean, bottom line, cut him off. Like, follow the information I gave you 6 months ago. It's the same type of thing. There's no point in going back over it. I've given you the information. So that's the application of the dream, and it's an important piece. It's a very important piece. Cayce says that dreams are God's desire to make for man a way for an understanding. This is God's desire to help us understand. All dreams, he says, are given for the benefit of the individual, would he or she but interpret them correctly. Dreams help you see yourself better. That's their point. They help you see who you are better. And if you're honest in that application or in that interviewing of that dream, what is this showing me about who I am? If you're honest, the more honest you are, the better you'll get to see yourself. And the better you'll be able to take that next step forward on that evolutionary path towards enlightenment that we're all wanting to go down. And that's what our dreams are telling us. Take a look. I'm helping you out. And so they help you see yourself better. Dreams help you improve yourself, body, mind, and spirit. I mean, dreams are showing you different things. What do you need to work on next in your life, physically, mentally, and spiritually? Dreams, like I said, are basically our connection to God. I mean, when we go to sleep at night, boom, there we are, connecting to that one source to get information. It's a divine helping hand to help us down the path. Application of the dream fulfills the purpose of the dream. So if you apply the information you're given, it will definitely fulfill the purpose of why it's there. Dream study helps us discover our highest potential. It helps us discover who we are. Cayce gave us the best information he could. You have the answers within. The answers to all of your questions. You can ask any question to your dream life, and you have the answers within. Just as we are all one to that one source, all the information, all the answers are there and available to us. You can ask any question and get the answer. And the more you interpret, the more you record your dream in an attitude of prayerful persistence, you will restore the dream faculty. Cayce says, as we have been given respecting visions or experiences of individuals, they in themselves may be better interpreters of their experiences, provided, to be sure, there is an attempt, the desire in each to know, the willingness to be guided or directed by those influences. Be willing to be directed by the influences that you get during your visions and during your dreams. Be honest with yourself and be patient, because that aha moment does come when it does make sense that that's what the dream means. Through the ARE, the website is on recommended book reading list that I have over there on the back table. The website to the ARE is www.edgarcayce.org. You can, they've got thousands and thousands and thousands of dreams that Kevin Tedeschi, who knows all of the Edgar Cayce readings on dreams, has diligently interpreted for people and said this is what Cayce was kind of getting at and this is what it could mean here. So you can go on that website and go to dream interpretation and even ask questions to him and write down your dream and say, I've got a dream, and help me figure out what it means. And he may answer that. He gets 500 a week and he answers 5 to 10. but he's got them all logged in there so you can see any dreams that might be similar. The website has tons of information on it. I mean, it's so much fun to explore. If you're a member, which is, it's a nonprofit organization type thing, if you're a member, then you just kind of can get into deeper levels. You can get all the readings on a CD sent to you and a couple of free books. A book like this, which is the Edgar Cayce Companion, takes any topic from symbols in the aura chart to mental imbalance and possession, attuning to the God within, astrology, thought projections, the nativity, Jesus is the pattern, Christ is the power, the Kundalini life force. Tons of information, page by page, is on completely different topics, short readings of what Edgar Cayce says. I do believe this is still free with the membership, so you can get this book, you can get all the readings, and just visit the website because there's a lot of good information there. I got into town 2 months ago. I'm really hoping that we can bring more Edgar Cayce stuff here. I'm really hoping that we can see Kevin Tedeschi or John Van Auken or Mark Thurston standing up here giving us lectures, just depending on, there's a lot of good information out there. And I mean, there's a lot of information coming from a lot of different sources. And, there's Cayce himself defined the ARE not as a cult. It's not, and it's very interesting to see this 1955 piece of paper, that was written in handwriting of what Edgar Cayce said about how this is not a cult. But so there's lots of good information, and I'd love to develop the ARE community here in the Rogue Valley. There's spiritual study groups that you can do that I'm interested in getting going. And I've even got a sign-up sheet here if anybody's interested in doing like a weekly sort of get-together and talk about spiritual concepts, anything from Edgar Cayce to anything else. I'm interested in doing that. There's an email sign-up sheet that I'd like to invite you to sign. And ready for questions? Yes, and we've got a microphone.
Does Cayce address guides and dreams?
So there are, does Cayce address guides and dreams? Certainly. And, there's, without a doubt, if you have somebody appearing in a dream, you can, if you can get to a place where you are conscious and able to, ask a question to that guide, you can certainly do that. There is good in everything, Cayce says. There are those souls that are on lower planes than others. And when Cayce would check out of his body and go up, he said that there were multiple levels of consciousness where certain beings were at lower levels trying to just distract you. And he always shot for the light. And that was his thing. And when he found himself enveloped by the light, he knew he was there and that he could receive questions. And that's what took the 15 minutes to get there for him. Sometimes is that. So you can. If you have a guide, is it light? Is it dark? What's the situation? Ask a question to it. See what answer you get. And so you can definitely. We are all connected. And, guides can come down to that. Microphone?
What does he actually say God is?
Let's open it up. It's just the oneness. I mean, it's everything. I don't know. That's a big one. So I mean, but it is just the oneness that connects us all, and it resides within us. It's outside of us. Your discovery of it might be completely different than my discovery of it, but it is all one. I mean, I don't know if that's a pat answer or not, but I mean, I think that I haven't, looked that up particularly. Yeah. Next question.
Hi, and thank you for your wonderful enthusiasm.
Thanks.
So what strikes me is that there's these two lines there, There's the one that I always hear about called the veil between the conscious and the subconscious. But then there's this line between the subconscious and the superconscious. Can you speak anything about, is that a second veil that can be sort of
Yeah, I would say
if
so.
we can sort of work with it to open it up
Certainly.
more?
Certainly.
Say what
Cayce
you can.
says that sleep opens a safe doorway into the subconscious mind. And, this is a, two-dimensional picture. It's a huge concept to try and fit onto a graph, but this helps explain that kind of beginning kind of understanding of the fact that we are made up of body, mind, and spirit. That through meditation is that place that you get to experiment with that next level. It's that meditation takes you to that spiritual place. And so there's many different kinds and many different ways to meditate. And exploring that veil is not something that I have, really went diving into at this point in time. But, it's kind of a way to just separate the concepts of the superconscious and the subconscious. The subconscious is more easily tapped into, and the superconscious takes a little bit more skill in order to tap into that universalness of all one. But Cayce says that we can all do it, like I said earlier, by being more spiritual. And that's what, that's how you become more psychic. You step up into this level, you are, one of the angels. You're right there. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, sure. Well, we're so used to thinking how thick the veil is.
Yeah.
That one there, and then so I just wanted to know.
Yeah.
Good.
In the quotes or in his books where we hear him using a lot of what I would call not the vernacular, the thy and the thine, and is he speaking via a past self, or is someone channeling through him that thy and thine sort of?
I think that Edgar Cayce read the Bible
Yeah.
every year of his life from, time to time, starting at 8. He was heavily influenced. And his conscious being, I'm going to speak to this the best I know, and I'm sure there might be a better answer, but his conscious, verbiage was in that kind of old English style of what he had kind of spent most of his time using. And Edgar Cayce spoke in alien languages. He spoke in ancient Greek. He spoke in, he had, Latin people come in and sit with him, and he spoke in the original Latin that had been, lost, he spoke in lots of different ways and lots of different things. And I'm, the trick of the whole thing, which was phenomenal, was that up on the second floor they've got a vault at the ARE with all the readings and all of the specific, lots of Edgar Cayce's photographs and a lot of that. I got to see the book that the shorthand was written by the same person his entire life. And it's gibberish. It's shorthand. The book goes along with it, but it scribbles on a piece of paper, and this is what the readings came off of. And then she interpreted it. So where's that level of who, did she put in the thines? There were a lot of misspellings. When she was writing in shorthand, she would pause at times, and Edgar would be put the I before the E, or something, and he would know that she was having trouble reading that word or writing that word. So I really don't, that's to the best of my ability to answer that question. That's how I would answer it. Yeah.
It may have even helped the person that was transcribing to speak that way.
Right.
Yeah.
Right, and it's yeah.
Did he often suggest for others to do the hypnosis also? Because that's another way of accessing the subconscious and the superconscious. Did he suggest that to others, or was that?
I'm not sure. I really don't know if he made that suggestion. He said that everybody could do what he does.
Right.
So there's nobody that couldn't do exactly what he's doing. That tapping into the into the Akashic Records is available to all. So I don't really he did say that sleep is a safe doorway into the subconscious mind, as opposed to some other forms of ways that we've tried to tap into the alternate worlds. But, this is, and meditation is very, is a safe way as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, can you say anything about his own earth habits as related to diet, exercise, and meditation?
Yeah, certainly. Edgar Cayce loved to smoke. He loved to drink, and not heavy amounts on either. He did them in moderation. But his favorite thing in the world was to fish. With being the awake and somewhat psychic, he really enjoyed card games, but if he concentrated, he could know every card in the deck. And so he found himself not really able to, other than Sunday school, communicate with people. And so he found himself a lot of the times off fishing. And he was solitary. And, he didn't have a lot of money. He and his family really did not have a lot of money. He didn't really start taking money for readings until readings became so important that he took minimal amounts. He did it for free so much. So, it was contribution only type of thing. But his health, he could have done much better for himself than he did. He did not pay attention to the readings on his own health, which is, he died at 67 years old. So, it was kind of a shame that he didn't listen to his own advice. But he said, yeah, smoke a cigarette after dinner, it'll help you digest. Drink a cup of coffee, don't put any milk in it, because that combination of milk with the coffee, your body has no idea how to digest it, turns it into a lump, and it's no good. But black coffee is great for you. You can add a little sweetener if you want. So he gave health recommendations for helping people live to 140, 150 years old. And he said that's completely possible in our present state. It's just, aligning yourself, body, mind, and spirit. So, yeah. And I think it's 9 o'clock, so I think that we've reached limit. Thank you very much for your time and attention. Appreciate it.
RVML Resource Center is a volunteer-operated federal 501c3 tax-exempt nonprofit organization. RVML is dedicated to providing easy access to a comprehensive collection of information on a variety of metaphysical, spiritual, and personal development subjects. RVML accepts and appreciates all donations. Material and monetary contributions are fully tax deductible. This recording is not copyrighted, and permission is granted to broadcast, exhibit, or duplicate all or part of this program for non-commercial educational purposes. This live presentation was organized and presented by the Rogue Valley Metaphysical Library and Event Center. For more information, please visit rvml.org.